love this community. I love it. It's so nice to be here. Such an honor to contribute to this community in even a very small way. So my name is Luke Fischbeck, and the next slide has a video. If I can figure out how to, oh, wrong computer. The audio may be a little extreme at first, and then we'll turn it down. So I wanted the content of this talk to somehow move past the idea that accessibility always has to be in response to a system that is just out of control. That sometimes accessibility can be a positive, an invention of it in its own right. That just is imagining something that is new. So I make work that doesn't assume a common language and fits poorly inside of frames. Work that only makes sense over a very long or a very short time, and only from multiple perspectives. Work that doesn't necessarily privilege a single point of view. And this usually makes awkward collaborations. The video is from performance, and I come from a background in music. Keep returning to music for its metaphors about how to communicate complexity and embodied knowledge, how to compress a lot of information about affect, bodies, time, attention, culture, sensation into a single event, and to share the experience of that event with other people. I love a poor image. As Hito Starlo put it, a poor image is lossy, lightweight, and all around. It depicts conditions, not things, reality, not real things. I like images that are out of gamut, distorted, damaged, and clipping, hinting at the intensity or the specificity of an experience that can't be duplicated. I'd like to pose an open question about the difference between representing, containing and compressing something, and recognizing something, indicating it or showing it, seeing yourself in something or just feeling it. As Vishali Manavanan says, I am tired of composing in ways that look well. It seems strange to be presenting to you guys as an expert on pain. I think it's obvious that I present as able, but maybe not. I don't know, maybe not. I started making these images when I was diagnosed with lymphoma and started going through chemotherapy and started just experiencing a beautiful range of new feelings about both my body, the way that I saw myself, and the way that other people saw me, and the way that I saw other people. So all these kinds of intersubjective ways of being. So these images are facial recognition software that's, takes a model for how you might recognize a face or distinguish one face from another, and flips it around to become generative. So it starts generating new faces that don't really face inwards or outwards, I think is the simplest way to say it, probably. Bam. Okay. So this idea of like an invertible model, I think, is something I'm going to be working with. And I don't have a goal with it yet. I'm sort of mistrustful of goals at first, so this is sort of background, first look. This image and many of the other ones that follow are from a data set of images made by pain patients. That it's a It's held by the National Health Services in the UK. It's all anonymized because it's technically medical data. I'm sharing it with you because I think it's an example of the variety of this beautiful variety and the ways that people can articulate their own experience. And putting it into images is something that I think is really crucial, which I'll talk about in a second. Another open question, should we make a computer that feels pain? This is sort of in response to philosopher Daniel Dennett's 1978 essay, Why You Can't Make a Computer That Feels Pain. Why you can't make a computer that feels pain. I thought it was strange that he accused me. According to Dennett, it's not because of any limitation of technology, but because of our definition of pain, which is unfixed, slippery, and incomplete. Pain escapes measurement and specificity. Where does pain happen? The source of injury, but sometimes there's not one source. In the brain or in the body, in society. Pain can't be interrogated, it must be acknowledged, believed, granted as real. This is a fundamental ethical aspect of pain that for Dennett shows why simulated pain doesn't make sense. But the inability to acknowledge the pain of others is the central problem here. So could a simulation help? These are just some pictures I picked out as being similar from the archive, yeah. It may make more sense to ask software what pain is, and then to use that understanding generatively. So not a simulation of pain necessarily, but a shadow, an imprint, a surround of pain. Even if pain can be simulated, why would we want to do this? Mia Mingus says, the best analysis in the world is useless if we don't treat each other well. So is a simulation more like care or analysis? Computers are better at doing, not describing, maybe. The language used to describe and interpret experience and sensation, especially for caregivers and medical professionals, to describe and interpret the experience and sensations of other people, tends to reinforce norms and power imbalances, to limit agency and understanding for everyone involved. A simulation could help understand the patterns of how socially acceptable normatives become established, how boundaries become established, how we communicate, name, and label pain, how we conceptualize, see our own pain and the pain of others. An active simulation could happen slowly, with continual input guidance from multiple sides, like listening and speaking at the same time. Adding image and other external forms to the conversation about pain adds nuance, helps to view intensity objectively, as part of ourselves but also separate. Images tolerate and sustain ambiguity, allowing complex things to remain complex. A simulation could show how information is created, carried, and distributed about pain. Pain being a complex, multimodal experience, even approaching the problem of simulation may result in complex, multimodal learning. Why should we be very careful doing this? To consider what pain means, to solve the problem of pain without negating it, there are good and bad flavors of pain. Importantly, to not treat people in pain as lessons to be learned or hidden messages to be unpacked, but rather as agential actors with desires, goals of their own. Problems with quantifying pain, such as surveys and scales, are that it poorly represents the experience of chronic pain, minimizes idiosyncrasy, variety, and nuance, it undermines self-determined nature of pain, undermines the privacy of pain sufferers. Should this process of designing a simulation be placed in the middle of a care network as a relational process, or should it be very private? Also, watch the profit. Affective computing, sentiment analysis, computational empathy, including self-empathy, is pretty deeply embedded in commerce, and it's only getting more intense. This is to answer Johanna's question about being a burden and having an occupation. There's this question of participating in capitalism just by feeling as affective labor. Why is pain special? It's special because everyone knows it's special. But where is it located? What is it made out of? And how do we express it? Pain is complex, a whole greater than its parts. Where change, resistance to change don't necessarily imply any outside force. Relationships between wholes and parts may change unexpectedly. For instance, emotion and pain can act as separate layers or together. Pain is versatile. It adapts and persists. Contingent and idiosyncratic, pain resists being reduced to rules. It can't or shouldn't be proved or disproved. It varies with attention and distraction, and it depends on all kinds of context. Any model of pain must be biological, psychological, and social in equal parts. As a social experience, as an intensity, some aspects of pain can be measured and others can't. Pain can have substance, it can be intensely specific, and it can radiate wildly. Pain is liminal, imperfect, and ambiguous. It is embodied, and it is alien. Ownership of pain is complicated. Is empathic pain the same as first-hand pain? Pain is a material and an event, and a form that emerges over time. It is an interval between all other kinds of experience and materials and forms. It erases, obliterates, holds apart, and delineates other kinds of experience, materials, and forms. Elaine Scarry wrote that pain actively destroys language. To hear pain, you know it to be irrefutably authentic. But how can pain actively destroy? Does it have its own agency, intention to make us do things? Pain provides a gradient of motivation, a behavioral drive. Lastly, pain can easily become anonymous. But when given interdependence, it takes on beautiful shapes. So I'm just going to quickly show you these projects that are not mine, but they're basically doing what, when I started thinking about this, I wanted to do, so I felt like I should share them with you. Deborah Padfield is an artist and researcher in the UK who made these cards that let people discuss their pain in a way that is outside of themselves, to use them as cards. And everything, so the anonymity of pain is something I find very compelling too. This is a video that has been anonymized. So what happens when we give an external form to pain, whether it's visual, performative, atmospheric, physical, temporal, virtual, linguistic, etc.? For people in pain, the experiencing body and its metaphors can be difficult to separate. Images, ritual simulations carry knowledge and build community around objects in common. For patients and caregivers, acting cooperatively with these objects can help to open dialogue and reduce hierarchies, as in Deborah Padfield's work. This is another project of hers, was to do collaborative portraits of people who had specifically faced pain. Where each party, a caregiver and a patient, would take turns drawing a line of the face until they had a complete face, or multiple faces. These external forms, everything from art therapy to immersive environments to ritual performances, include both description, precision, finding the right word, and metaphor, projecting into the world. Metaphor speaks about what we don't know in terms of what we do know, extending the boundaries of a shared world. It gives both private and shared experience clarity and coherence, bridging between inner and outer, private and public, facing directly towards linguistic conceptual absences, gaps, and lacks. Who or what are these forms for? Recognition or communication? Viewed from outside, self-duplication in a landscape in a body, to express contrasting states simultaneously. doubling, externalizing, materializing? Is representation always about displacement, or can it stay rooted in context, in the moment? Looking out while looking in, both inward and outward facing. Is pain a frame, a filter, a mask, a lens? Yeah. Thank you.